Unlock the secrets of Psalms now, what they didn't want you to know. The candles flickered as shadows danced across the ancient stone walls of the chapel, secrets whispered in hushed tones only to be interrupted by the heavy thud of a heart in dread. It was said that the old Psalms held truths buried deep, clues to power and knowledge the world had sought for centuries. Legends floated like mist, carrying tales of lost ancient artifacts that could bend reality itself. What if every word woven into the Psalms was crafted with mystical intent? What if hidden within was the key to unseen forces? There was a chill in the air, a sensation prickling at the back of one's neck, as if unseen eyes were watching, or waiting. Murmurs spiraled through groups of locals, each one trembling with the weight of their own superstitions. "It's cursed," an old man declared, eyes flashing with fire. The ground shook last Wednesday when the new church was built over forgotten graves. Many swore they heard voices in the night. The place buzzed with the kind of energy that coils tightly around one's chest, making it hard to breathe. A sudden shatter echoed through the dimly lit room, slicing through the tension like a knife. A window, cracked open, cast eerie shapes as the wind pulled at the curtains. Who could have done that? A woman gasped, her hands flying to her mouth, revealing her fears. Every creak of wood or rustle of leaves became a ghostly whisper urging them to unlock the mysteries that lay hidden. But what horrors would be stirred? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A loud crash interrupted the whispering wind, and the local historian collapsed, his papers scattering like fallen leaves. He gasped, eyes wide with revelation. They're looking for it, the truth of the Psalms. Suddenly, the room felt electric, full of tension. There was no turning back now. And just like that, an unspoken question hung in the air like a thick fog. What did he uncover? What was this truth? Each second pulled them deeper into the mystery, teetering on the edge of a revelation that could change everything. The historian struggled to his feet, breathless and frantic. "You have to listen," he urged, his voice shaking with urgency. The crowd shifted uneasily, exchanging furtive glances, the tension thick enough to slice through. The Psalms, they aren't just poetry. They're instructions. Instructions for summoning powers that the world has forgotten. Gasps rippled through the audience, a chorus of disbelief. A middle-aged woman stepped forward, her brow knitted in doubt. "You're telling us that ancient verses can hold such power? That's madness." "No," he barked, eyes wild and fierce, "you don't understand. The verses are codes. Each letter holds meaning, a key to the past." Outside the chapel, the wind howled like a wolf, rattling the windows, as if nature itself was responding to the words inside. The group was now caught in a storm of whispered fear and excitement. They were dancing on the edge of a truth that felt at once liberating and terrifying. "What if it's true?" a young man whispered, biting his lip. "What if we could change our fates? We could alter our reality." The historian scoffed, but his voice trembled. "And what if those powers come with a cost? What are you willing to sacrifice for knowledge?" The question hung in the air, thorny and sharp. One by one, they turned darkly introspective. The stakes grew higher, ripples of dread intertwining with the thrill of the unknown. A cold furnace of fear ignited in their bellies. Generations of whispered warnings suddenly felt palpably alive. A voice drifted from the back, trembling and soft. "You're all talking about forces you don't understand. You awaken what should remain buried." It was the old man, the one who had claimed the chapel was cursed. His eyes glimmered with something akin to sorrow. "The moment you seek the truth, the truth will seek you in return. Do you want to be pursued by that which is best left undisturbed? Intrigued and unsettled, the crowd leaned forward, drawn into an inevitable fate. The historian stepped closer, lowering his voice but packing it with urgency. There is a ritual, an invocation from the Psalms that can reveal the hidden. With it, you can glimpse the fabric of reality itself. The words shifted through the crowd, igniting fire in the eyes of some, dread in others. An electric charge filled the air, and suddenly they were standing not just within the chapel but on the threshold of something monumental, something that could unravel their lives forever. And how do we do it? Someone asked, breathless with anticipation. The historian smiled, a dangerous glint in his eye. We gather the old texts. Each psalm connected to whispers of the past. It won't be easy, but I know where to begin. A shiver swept through the gathered souls, vibrating through the very stones of the chapel. In that instant, they recognized their own reflection in the historian's eyes, the desperation for understanding, the thrill of forbidden knowledge, but as shadows enveloped their resolve, a loud boom echoed through the night, rattling the chapel once more. The ground trembled ominously as an ominous roar pierced the air, like something awakening below. What was that? Someone shouted, panic creeping into their voice. The historian's face paled, confusion mixing with fear. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's not happy we're here. A chain reaction ignited as the members of the congregation glanced at each other, fraught with hesitation. Should they pursue the truth at the risk of disturbing something ancient and malevolent? Facing the open door, dark winds beckoned. Only now did they realize, the path to the unknown never leads to comfort, it leads to confrontation. And as they stood at the edge of decision, the tension thickened once more. What choice would they make? What secrets lay ahead, waiting to be unearthed? The clock was ticking, and the shadows were gathering. The air in the chapel felt heavier, as if it had turned to lead. Anxiety crackled between the congregation, a raw tension igniting every heartbeat. Some glanced nervously towards the door, where the howling wind seemed to cry out, warning them to turn back. Others stood firm, eyes glinting with reckless curiosity, their minds racing with all the possibilities. Maybe we should leave, a woman said, her voice trembling. She had just moved to the town and was still trying to find her place. This feels wrong. No. The historian snapped, desperation weaving through his voice. Can't you see? This isn't just about us anymore. It's larger than any of us. Before anyone could respond, another thunderous boom reverberated through the chapel. It sent a shudder along the walls, and echoes danced like dark spirits across the room. The candle flames flickered wildly, casting monstrous shadows that leapt like angry phantoms across the old stone. What if the old man is right? A young woman interjected now, eyes wide. What if we're about to awaken something dark? He knew too, the historian whispered, almost to himself. He felt the weight of the echoes. The curse runs deeper than we imagined, but the knowledge this is our chance to reclaim what is lost. He turned back to the crowd, his eyes wild with fervor. People have been searching for the lost history, the truth buried in these psalms, for generations. We could be the ones to break the chains holding that knowledge away from the world. But doubt hung thick like fog. Faces turned pale, nerves on edge. The old man's warning loomed in their minds. Did they want to be hunted by a force they didn't understand? As if mocking their hesitation, a gust of wind burst into the chapel, slamming the door shut behind it with a thunderous clap. The sound echoed, a stark reminder of their entrapment. Panic spiked again. I don't like this. Let us just go. A man yelled, anger cracking into fear. The historian's expression shifted, a silent plea wrapped in urgency. If we leave now, we'll never know. The truth won't wait for us to gather our courage. It will slip between our fingers like sand. That resonated. Something shifted in the crowd. Hope sparked amidst the panic, but mixed with a mounting dread that curled around their hearts. They were teetering on a precipice and unveiling that promised power and threat in equal measure. "Fine!" A brave voice called out from the back, emboldened by conviction. "Let us at least find out what we're dealing with. If the Psalms have answers, then we need them." A collective breath was held, a moment of silence descended. It was like letting the air out of a balloon, releasing every tension. They looked at each other, absorbing the weight of impending decision. "Gather the texts," the historian commanded, voice resolute. "We won't go into this blind. We'll summon the wisdom, but tread lightly and remember, wisdom often comes with consequence." With that call to action, they began to move towards the old shelves filled with dusty tomes and tattered manuscripts. One by one, hands reached out, finding grips on the faded covers. But before they could plunge deeper into the abyss of the unknown, a piercing shriek echoed through the night, reverberating like a death knell. The historian froze, eyes widening, veins chilled. What was that? He whispered, suddenly feeling very small against the gathering storm of shadows outside the chapel, but no one had an answer. All they felt was a tightening in their chests as they sensed something dark and furious watching them. The echoes had awakened something, and it was ready to respond. Would they truly dare to face the truth they sought? Or would they become the very prey of what they had awakened? The night was only just beginning to bind their fates. The historian's heart raced as the shriek receded into silence, but the tension in the chapel crackled like static in the air. The flickering candles cast a backward glow, stretching shadows that twisted and twirled like tendrils of fear reaching for the congregation. "Did you hear that?" An older man whispered, moving closer to the historian. "We should leave now." Whatever that was, it didn't sound human. Each lost gaze reflected rising dread. Was the old man's warning coming true? The Psalms, the very texts that promised enlightenment, now loomed as a harbinger of darkness. "No. We can't turn back," the historian exclaimed, his voice suddenly firm, cutting through the rising panic. "If we retreat now, we hand the power over to fear. We might never have this chance again." They might not be whispers of knowledge, the young woman voiced her doubt, still trembling. They might be cries for help. Or worse. One by one, they faced each other, uncertainty flickered like a candle in a storm. Yet the historian stood firm, conviction blazing in his eyes. "Every moment we waste is a moment wasted allowing that darkness to grow. We hold the keys to unlock truths long buried. Listen to the echoes. They cry out for release." Before he could regain control over his own spiraling fear, another tremor zoomed through the chapel, a deeper rumble almost like a heartbeat. The beams above groaned under unseen weight. Suddenly, a book fell from a shelf, tumbling down with a heavy thud. The sound sliced through the claustrophobic atmosphere, landing heavily on their hearts. Instinctively, everyone recoiled, but curiosity tugged at them. They glanced at the historian, waiting for permission. "Check it. It's a sign," he urged breathlessly, eyes glinting. "It could be one of the Psalms." Reluctantly, a brave soul approached the book, fingers trembling as it was lifted. Dust clouds erupted with the action, fanning out into the air. The young woman opened it, her eyes widening as she scanned the words etched on fragile pages, symbols that danced with unrecognizable power. "What does it say?" Another voice echoed, tension tightening around them once more. "Something about the awakening," she stammered. "It mentions the keeper and the shadows that stir." Each word fell from her lips like a heavy stone, weighing down the room. The historian edged closer, both intrigued and terrified. "It can't be. This is what we feared the most, an entity trapped within these texts. Something waiting, anticipating our arrival." A frigid wind swept through the chapel, extinguishing 2 candle flames completely and leaving the congregation in a pungent darkness. Gasps filled the air, breaths quickening. The young woman turned the pages desperately, but the shadows around them twisted tighter, pooling with coldness. "We need to get out of here," someone screamed in a sudden burst of desperation. Fear surged, causing them to step back, instinctively retreating from the unknown. No! The historian shouted, raising his arms. We can't run. We must confront whatever this is. We have to confront the keeper to find our answers. The ground shuddered beneath them, rattling the very stones of the chapel. A low growl vibrated through the walls, sounding alive a thunderous proclamation that echoed their fears. For every heartbeat, the shadows twisted and turned, as though the chapel itself was responding to the summons. As they huddled closer, an ethereal light burst from within the open book, illuminating their surroundings. But the light flickered out, revealing an unnerving silhouette, a figure emerging from the shadows, a shadow among shadows. What have you awakened? A voice hissed, cutting through every soul. The very air froze as an unshakable chill surrounded the room, binding them all in fear and awe. They had uncovered the truth, but at what cost? What awaited them now in the dark corners of the chapel, and would they all make it back if they dared to confront it? Only the brewing wind outside answered with a deep, mournful sigh. The figure loomed closer, its form weaving in and out of existence like a mirage. A sickly sweet scent filled the air, old books and decay, as if centuries of despair clung to it. The candlelight flickered wildly, illuminating the creature's eyes, small, piercing orbs that held ancient wisdom and unspeakable malice. What do you want from us? The historian's voice shook, but he clenched his fists, unwilling to show fear. Want? The voice slithered like smoke through the air. You sought the truths buried in the past. You have opened the door, and now the keeper demands a tribute for revealing what was never meant for you. Murmurs rolled through the group. Unease spun their hearts into knots. What tribute? A man croaked, fear collapsing him like a broken puppet. A chilling laugh echoed, reverberating off the stone walls. Only the brave give willingly. You must confront your own shadows. Only through sacrifice may you uncover what lies hidden. The shadows surrounding the figure began to pulse, beating like a heart, drawing closer. The historian felt sweat trickling down his back, cold and slick. He scanned the room, eyes landing on the others, their faces owlish with dread, some starting to tremble, yet others lost in their own thoughts, contemplating what they might have to offer. What kind of sacrifice? The young woman whispered, the question pressing against her lips. Each to their own, the keeper hissed, as if savoring the taste of their fears. Perhaps a secret, a truth you hide even from yourself. Or perhaps it requires something more tangible. No one spoke. Silence wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. The historian felt a heaviness settling over him, and the weight of unspoken truths loomed like a storm cloud. Do it. He urged them, his voice rising. We can't let this darkness control us. Face your fears. Whatever it demands, we must stand united. His words hung in the air, a flicker of hope in the blackness. But as they turned to look at one another, unsteady shoulders drooped under the weight of their secrets. What were they willing to sacrifice? Family? Dreams? Their very souls? The air thickened again, and the keeper's figure shifted, rippling with impatience. Tick-tock, it taunted, the shadows are hungry, and time bleeds away. Suddenly, the young woman stepped forward, her expression fierce and determined. I can't hide any longer. I'll go first. Gasps erupted from the group. They didn't want her to bear the burden alone. No. Wait. The historian called. It shouldn't be you. But she had already grasped the book tightly, staring into its depths. I've lived a lie, she declared. I should have spoken up long ago. The air crackled with electricity as the keeper's eyes shone brighter. Courage, sweet child, but you must provide more than words. As the shadows coiled tighter, eager for her revelation, the historian's heart raced. What had she hidden? What would it cost her and the rest of them? Even as they watched, the keeper's voice dripped with anticipation. Let us see how deep your truth runs. Speak, and let the shadows feast on your sins. Just then, a low rumbling echoed from the depths of the chapel, shaking dust from the rafters. The walls trembled, and a crack slithered through the floor, creeping ominously closer. The young woman opened her mouth, her truth ready to spill, yet dread froze her on the edge of revelation. What is going to happen? She breathed, glancing toward the historian, their eyes locking in mutual fear. Could they survive the keeper's demands? Was fear more potent than the choices they faced? And what hungered in the shadows when unspoken truths were laid bare? The air grew charged with tension as the night deepened. Uncertainty enveloped them, leaving only one question lingering in the heavy darkness: what sacrifices lie ahead, and who would be the next to confront the shadows? The weight of silence hung in the chapel, thick enough to slice. Time seemed to quiver as the young woman stood at the precipice of her own unraveling. The flickering candles danced around them, casting wild shapes on the walls that looked almost mocking in the gloom. "Just speak," the keeper encouraged, its voice like the rustle of dry leaves, loose and enticing. "The shadows thrive on your truth." As she struggled, a rush of memories flooded her mind, moments where she had turned her back on honesty, where every lie added more chains to her soul. A flood of doubt surged within her. Would it be worth it? The truth might spare her now, but what would it take? The historian felt his heart pound like a war drum in his chest. "You can do this," he called, desperation seeping into his words. What if this was their only chance to escape the darkness? What if her confession could anchor them against the storm? "Yes," she breathed, tightening her grip on the book, its spine digging into her palm. The weight of generations pressed heavily upon her. Everyone was watching. The murmurs had swelled into a roaring tide of expectation. And then the ground shook again, more violently this time. The crack that had spread through the floor widened, gaping like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. A wail erupted from somewhere beneath, echoing in the very bones of the chapel. The keeper laughed, a hissing sound full of malevolence. "Speak now, or be consumed." "Stop!" cried a voice from the back. It was a man, tall and slightly disheveled, eyes wide with terror. "We can't let this happen. You're sacrificing your life for us for what?" Panic filled the young woman's eyes as she faltered. Her heart raced, tangled in fear and the weight of what needed to be done. "I can't let you guys face this alone," she insisted, struggling to find her courage again. The keeper leaned closer, its shadows swirling like a tempest. "Your shortcomings fuel me. What you've denied will claim you. You either share your truth, or become a prisoner to your own lies." The historian's mind raced. Was the keeper right? Could they share the burden together? "Let us all face the shadows," he shouted, trying to cultivate unity. "We are stronger together. What of your fears? What of the truths that haunt us? It's not about strength," the man countered, voice breaking. "It's about survival. If her truth is already this hard to declare, imagine the rest of us." The young woman felt a knot twist tighter in her stomach. She could feel the insatiable pull of the shadows around her. It felt like quicksand, each passing second drawing her deeper into despair. I can't hold this weight alone," she gasped. "Then share it," the historian urged, his eyes pleading. "Release it all. Let the darkness know you won't hide." In that moment, a flicker of resolve ignited within her. She took a trembling step forward, heart racing, throat tightening with fear. "I left someone behind the day of the accident. I promised to stay and protect my brother, but I didn't. The shadows trembled in anticipation, swirling tighter around her. The keeper's grin widened, hunger reflected in its glowing eyes, but before she could finish, a deafening crash resounded from below, and the ground shook again, threatening to swallow them whole. Her revelation hung precariously in the air, and she sensed the other truths rising in the hearts of those watching. The time to confront the shadows was now, but how far would they stretch their hands into the depths of their fears? What dark secrets lingered just beneath the surface? And who among them was ready to lay their truth bare? The air crackled with tension as the ground trembled, and everyone's breath hitched in a collective gasp. The keeper, ever grinning, seemed to draw energy from their fear like a spider weaving its web. The candles flickered violently, their flames desperate to combat the encroaching darkness. "Finish what you started," the historian shouted, his voice a beacon amidst the chaos. "You must speak." But the young woman froze, paralyzed by the weight of her confession. The enormity of the truth loomed over her like a dark cloud. A churning vortex of doubt swirled in her mind, and she could hear the torment of others in the chapel, the fear that wrapped around their hearts like a vice. They needed her strength, but within her, she felt only weakness. "I can't," she murmured, almost lost to her own fear. The keeper straightened, shadows coiling around it like smoke. "Ah, but you can, my dear. You will. Your truth is a feast I've been waiting for." The ground roared again, and this time, there was a shrill cry that seemed to echo from beyond. It was a deep and haunting sound, one that clawed at her insides, her heart thundering with dread. The floor beneath them shuddered, further fissures spreading like hungry jaws. She turned, eyes darting across the faces of those around her, the people who relied on her, the whispers, the unspoken secrets pooling beneath their skin. Would they find the courage to unleash their truths? The man who had called out earlier stood wide-eyed, shaking his head in disbelief. "Don't you see? It's not just about you," he yelled, his voice rising above the chaos. "We're all here, all trapped together. If we don't act, this thing will consume us whole. Speak." Panic swirled within her chest. A mix of fear and shame bolted down her spine like ice. She began again, words fumbling and tumbling into an unsteady stream. "I was afraid. I was scared of what would happen if I spoke up. What if I lost everyone? Then we fight together." Another voice called. "We face the shadows as one." The keeper laughed, a dark, menacing sound that rolled through the space. "Foolish humans. Your truth acts like shrill laughter to me. When it is revealed, it will only serve to further your despair." Desperation painted the girl's next words, lifting her voice above the din. "I was only 14. I ran away when my brother needed me. I was afraid of losing my freedom, and with that, the world around her shuddered." The keeper's grip loosened slightly as if the shadows fell back in shock. The cries from below were louder now, more emphatic, each note a reminder of lives intertwined, stories forged into bonds. Then, in a moment of stunned silence, the historian stepped forward, eyes wide and earnest. "You're not alone." The echo of his declaration wove through the silence, sparking courage in those gathered. One by one, voices began rising, reclaiming their buried truths. The man sent a shudder down her spine as he added, "I always hated my father for his lies, but I've never faced him with the truth of my pain. We can embrace this horror together." And so a cascade of confessions erupted, illuminating the shadows. As the floodgates opened, fear and shame began to mix with resolve and empathy, crafting an atmosphere heavy with both sorrow and relief. The keeper's laughter faltered, flickering like the dying candle flames, shadows struggling to maintain control. "Enough!" it shrieked, fury igniting its form. "You may think your truths shine like beacons, but they are merely tiny flickers against a storm. You cannot banish me with such simple words." The ground trembled ominously as energy surged, and her heart raced. Each revelation seemed to awaken the very beast they sought to defeat, growing stronger with each echoing truth shared. The young woman felt the weight of her guilt press against her lungs. But now, maybe the others could help her break free. She stammered, "I'm ready to face this. We'll face it together." But was it too late? The walls of the chapel shuddered, ready to collapse, the shadows closing in like a noose. Could they truly banish the darkness, or would the secrets claw them down into the abyss? The answer lurked just beyond the realm of truth. With every confession, the atmosphere shifted, thickening with a potent mix of fear and defiance. The young woman felt a spark ignite within her, a fleeting warmth that urged her to push through the encroaching darkness. The keeper's glee now masked a deepening fury, the shadows around it writhing like angry serpents. You fool! You think the light of your words can save you? It bellowed, its voice echoing like a storm. You've only served to awaken my hunger. I thrive on your weaknesses, your hidden truths. It wasn't just her fear now, it was every suppressed story, every lingering shame, clawing back to the surface, aching to be set free. The historian directed his gaze toward her, urging her forward. This is it. You've begun the onslaught. Keep going, we're with you. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a drum in a fading battle. I thought freedom meant abandoning my past, but it was the opposite. I abandoned those I loved. I tormented myself, thinking they'd be better off without me. The ground roared in response, forceful and raw. Cracks spiderwebbed beneath their feet, and the chapel swayed as if the very fabric of reality was at stake. The keeper's form twisted, shadows curling around it like wind through branches, contempt in its laugh. Pathetic. Your confessions are little more than whispers against the thunder of my wrath. But other voices were rising again, a swell of emotion that surged like a rushing river. I stood silent when my sister begged for help. One man shouted, fists clenched. I let her suffer while I hid from my own pain. Another voice picked up, this time softer, but full of conviction. I let fear dictate my actions, but I won't be silent anymore. Each confession felt like a hammer blow, each truth a sliver of light cutting through the darkness. The keeper convulsed with rage, the shadows flickering more violently now. No. You will not take away my power. It screeched, an unsettling wail that pierced through the air, twisting the very night. A rush of cold swept through the chapel, chilling her to the bone. She caught the eye of the man who had stood in solidarity. What if we fail? She whispered, breathless with uncertainty that he steadied his gaze. What if we succeed? Together, we can turn this tide. In that moment, clarity washed over her like a warm light dispelling fog. Each truth they shared acted as a beacon, illuminating the shadows, weakening the keeper's grip. They had started a chain reaction, a force greater than any one confession alone. I'm ready. She declared, voice strong. We're ready. Together, we will face the storm. A fierce determination ignited in the group, and they surged forward, each ready to embrace their truth. One by one, their voices formed a powerful chorus, reclaiming their stories and laying them bare for all to hear. The shadows writhed and howled, pushed back ever so slightly by the rising tide of collective strength, but the keeper would not yield without a fight. Foolish mortals! It shrieked, its voice deepening with ancient malice. You may think you can withstand my power, but you have only begun to taste the consequences of your folly. The air vibrated with energy as the ground lurched beneath them, cracks snaking ominously, threatening to engulf their fears in a final act of despair. She felt the floor betray her, the weight of dread surging back like a living beast. What happens now? Someone shouted, a note of desperation creeping into their voice, but she couldn't answer. The keeper loomed larger, its shadows stretching like a monstrous wing ready to consume them whole. Hold tight! She yelled, fingers gripping her newfound companions. Only a flicker of hope shone amidst the gathering dread. Could their truths pull them through the rising tide of darkness? And then it came, a blinding pulse erupted from the heart of their collective confessions, challenging the keeper's fists of rage. Would it be enough, or was it just the beginning of their reckoning? The pulse of light surged outward, a brilliant wave that cut through the oppressive shadows like a razor. The keeper recoiled, its inky form flickering. It had never expected such a raw explosion of strength. For the first time, fear danced in its eyes. Stop it! It shrieked, clawing at the air as if trying to snatch the light back. You don't know what you're doing. But their confessions had wrought something immense. It had become more than just words, it was a movement. One by one, the figures around her felt the shift and rallied. The congregation transformed, standing shoulder to shoulder, hearts pounding in unity. Keep pushing! The historian shouted. Don't stop. Another voice echoed, despair igniting into fervor. The young woman felt invincible, even as the ground quaked in protest. She squeezed the hands of her companions, each a beacon of strength. She could feel the hope coursing through their connected energies, each pulse amplifying the light. Shadows shrieked angrily, retreating deeper into the corners of the chapel. Truth is louder than your lies. She cried, her voice breaking through the cacophony. Each confession added layers to that light, crafting an armor against the Keeper's wrath. We're no longer lost in silence. Our voices are our power. But the Keeper, its rage now manifesting in violent waves of darkness, lashed out. The very air thickened, stinging the back of her throat with a bitter chill. She felt icy tendrils creeping up her legs, threatening to pull her down. Together. A chorus of voices rallied, lifting in harmonious defiance. Their truths intertwined, spinning a web of strength and determination. The young woman took a deep breath and dove deeper into her revelations. The memories flooded back her mother's tears, the friends she abandoned. Each one a fragment of power to wield. I chose fear over love. She shouted, her heart racing. But no more. I claim that love back. The ground erupted beneath them, fissures widening. The Keeper let out a wail that shook the very walls of the chapel. It reared back, shadows forming into sharp points, wanting to burst forth like an uncontrollable storm. I will devour your truths. It screamed, but they pressed on, refusing to back down. The air crackled and the light swelled, soaring higher, fierce and blinding. Face it. Another voice shouted, fury fueling them. We stand together now, and you cannot silence us. Sparks erupted as shards of light clashed with the darkness. The shadows began to retreat, grasping desperately at the air but finding nothing to hold on to. The weight of the past felt lighter as the young woman let her words pour out, relentless like a rushing river breaking free from a dam. One truth at a time. She urged, and one by one, their stories filled the chapel. They confided their deepest fears, their darkest secrets, and with every word, the Keeper shuddered, the walls shaking as if responding to their wrath, but with every confession, a sense of foreboding crept back. What if the Keeper survived this? What if they unleashed something far worse in their defiance? As the light blazed brighter, she felt an unsettling realization plunging deep into her gut. The Keeper might be just a shadow of something more formidable. A flicker of doubt tried to take hold. Stay strong. The historian echoed, but unease shadowed his voice. The air around them grew thick with tension, the ceiling darkening, crashing down as if the universe itself was collapsing. Are we truly ready for this fight? She whispered, eyes darting back towards the Keeper. Its form was larger now, threatening to envelop them in chaos. The pulse of collective hope began to fade, caught in the Keeper's growing shadow. This was their moment, but it felt like they stood on the brink of an abyss, and maybe, just maybe, they had underestimated what lay ahead. As the darkness surged forward in a final desperate assault, the question hung heavy in the air, could truth face the ultimate horror yet to be revealed? The air crackled with electric tension, and as the dark shadows converged, the Keeper let out a war cry that tore through the chapel like a thunderclap. You dare challenge the darkness? It surged, coiling closer, nearly enveloping them in despair, but then, as if responding to the anguish and courage swirling in the room, the light surged brighter. It pushed back against the dark, beams cutting through the oppressive shadows. No. You will not take us. The young woman shouted, her voice rising above the din of chaos. Moments hung in the air, stretching long before them, the outcome teetering on a blade's edge. The others felt their resolve strengthen, hearts pounding with conviction. Our truths unite us. Light thrives where darkness is revealed. The historian called out. Each confession made them a force, the ghosts of their pasts converging, turning from burdens into steps of reclaiming power. One by one, they raised their voices like a mighty chorus, tales pouring forth with the rawness of old wounds exposed. I kept silent for far too long. I cannot let fear dictate my life anymore. I lost my way, but no more. The chapel rang with the echoes, words igniting hope amidst desperation. With every declaration, the light intensified, a brilliant luminescence that filled the room. The keeper shrieked, shadows flickering wildly as if they were flames caught in a storm. You think words can defeat me? You think your truths are stronger than shadows? It hissed, shifting its form like a thunderstorm, angry and potent, but the congregation felt something new, a sharp awareness. They had become a collective force, and they roared back at the shadows, fierce and unyielding. Truth is our shield. It illuminates the darkness, and we will not back down. As they leaned into their collective strength, the pulsating light exploded outward, pushing the keeper further back. The shadows writhed in agony, as if driven by a power they had never encountered. The fear that had once gripped them became a memory, a past they had dared to share, and in that, they found solidarity. The keeper, sensing its defeat, lashed out in desperation. You will not escape. This is merely the beginning. It twisted, trying to reclaim the narrative, but the light surged with renewed ferocity, fueled by the weight of every confession. The echoes banded together, growing louder. We choose courage. We choose life. We will reclaim our stories. Each voice joined as a salve for the wounds they had carried, allowing light to seep deeply into the cracks of despair. Suddenly, a flash of radiance erupted, a brilliant explosion that lit the chapel in an ethereal glow. The darkness recoiled, its form twisting, and began to fracture at the seams. It howled in fury, but the chorus of voices broke through, rising around it like an unyielding tide. In that moment of clarity, the young woman felt the wave of strength supporting her. I choose to let go. I free myself from the burdens of my past. Her voice became a guiding light, piercing through the final shroud of shadows. The keeper faltered, then screamed, "No!" And with a final, thunderous explosion, the shadows ruptured, scattering into a million whispers, fading into oblivion. The brightness enveloped them all, a warm embrace washing over. The chapel, once dark and oppressive, transformed into a sanctuary infused with light. The stone walls pulsed, and the very air shifted. Heavy weights lifted as if the burdens they had carried were cleansed. Breathless and trembling, the congregation stood gazing at one another, filled with disbelief and euphoria. The historian wiped tears from his eyes, feeling the swell of gratitude. We did it. We faced the shadows together. The woman let out a shaky breath, looking at her companions, seeing their burdens lifted. Together, she repeated softly, warmth spreading through her heart. Outside, the sun began to rise, casting a golden light through the chapel windows. They stepped towards the door, hearts light and hopes renewed. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger, their truths forever binding them. Together. As they walked into the dawn, they left behind the weight of their secrets. They had unlocked the mysteries of their pasts, and now, with heads held high, they were ready to embrace their futures. This was not just the ending, it was a new beginning, woven with understanding and clarity, and as the final light of dawn crept into the chapel, the shadows receded entirely, released and free, allowing a path paved in light to guide them forward. Don't let this journey end here. You need to subscribe now and be part of the incredible stories yet to unfold. Smash that like button to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions. What did this ending mean for you? And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to discover this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.